Now, we need to spend about 10 seconds talking about falling in love, and that's all it really requires is 10 seconds. Because the only requirement for falling in love is a pulse, right? I mean, if you have a pulse, you can fall in love. Some of you are in love with people you've never met. They're on TV, and you're just in love. You just stare at them, you think, I'm so in love with him. I'm so in love with her. I mean, she reads the news, and you're in love with her, So anyway, so it just doesn't, in fact, as we've already talked about, there are 1,500 organizations in this country, 1,500, that if you pay them your money and give them a profile, they will connect you with somebody with a similar profile. It is, and you may not believe this, it has never been easier to fall in love. It has never been easier to connect with a broader number of people because of media and because of social networking. It has never been easier to fall in love, but I would argue, and I bet you would agree, it's never been more difficult to stay in love. And yet that's what we want. And we somehow think it's possible. And we keep looking around thinking maybe we're going to find the one. Because there's something in you and there's something in me that wants to finish life and do life with that special someone. We don't want to just be in a relationship. We don't want to just survive the years. We want to be in love. But it's getting more and more difficult. And there's several reasons why it's so difficult. And none of this is new information. Part of it's what you saw growing up, right? Part of it's what you experienced. The truth is, very few people have ever been around a healthy, romantic, marriage, couple relationship. Most people have never seen one. I mean, seen one like tracked with it over a period of years, having grown up in a home where your parents, were on the same page and had the kind of relationship you wanted to have one day. Very few people have ever even seen it. So consequently, what's modeled for us and the law of relationship and the rules of relationship are so wrong, and yet they're the very ones we adopt, that it makes it almost impossible for us to stay in love. I mean, here's what a lot of us grew up with. Do unto others as they deserve to be done unto, right? Do unto others as they do unto you. Isn't that it? Do unto others as your mood would have it. Do unto others so as to get them to see things your way. Do unto others until you wear them down and get your way. Do unto others until you're ready to leave. I mean, as you think about the relationships you've tracked with either your friends in the office or your cousins or maybe even your parents, or, when we look at relationships, people may stay together, but they're not in love, you assume. They're not what you want. They're just kind of surviving if they even stay together at all. So consequently, because of what most of us see growing up and what most of us have had modeled for us, I mean, we're just completely ill-equipped. We've never seen one. And yet, all of us think one's possible, and we think we're candidates for that kind of relationship. The other thing that makes it difficult is what we felt growing up. Now, the bunch of smart guys got together, men and women actually, and they came up with a list. This is kind of overwhelming. A list of what it takes for a child to grow up in a very, very nurturing environment and to leave adolescence and to be equipped to engage in healthy relationships in the future. In other words, here's what it would take to be fully emotionally, and in 2 weeks we're going to talk about emotions specifically, so hang in there. To be emotionally equipped to engage in long-term relationship, here's all it takes. You need to grow up in a home where you get respect, and this is like massive doses of all of this. Respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. Sounds like the family you grew up in, doesn't it? You get constant respect, encouragement, comfort, security. Everybody's there, nobody's leaving. Support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. Now, if that's what it takes over a long period of time to equip us to engage in long-term relationships as an adult, I mean, if that's what we felt, if that's what we need to have felt growing up, I mean, what are the odds of us being able to maintain a forever and happily ever after kind of relationship, especially when we connect with and meet people who didn't grow up getting that kind of stuff either? So consequently, what happens for most of us is we come into adulthood looking for someone from which we can get respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. And I fall in love with you, but now that we're both in love with each other, I'm wondering, are you going to give me respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection, or are you just cute? Or do you just have a good job? Because once we're in love with each other, what begins as a hug around the neck becomes a stranglehold. Give me affection, comfort, security, love. I got to have it because I came into this thing with a deficit. I've been malnutritioned in terms of love and affection and all that stuff, and I'm going to squeeze it out of you, and you're going to squeeze it out of me, and I just wonder why I don't think you're so cute anymore. And that car, so what, And all of a sudden, the things that just, created this emotional energy where we couldn't stay away from each other, somehow it starts to go away. Part of what makes it so hard is what we have felt and haven't felt. And here's just a disturbing statistic, and this has been true for years. This is this year's statistic, but it's been this way for years. 40% of the children born in this country this year will be born into homes where there's no dad. 40%. There will be no stable male influence at all. 40%. Now, we can argue all day long about single moms and nurturing and all that stuff, and I'm not here to try to make a statement. I'm just telling you. If it takes all of that to equip someone to engage relationally and stay engaged relationally and be a healthy relationship, and 40% of the babies born in our country will never have a meaningful relationship with their father at all, I'm just telling you, they're going to struggle. There's a deficit, and it's not their fault any more than it's probably your fault. But it's the reality. And yet, you're equipped to fall in love. But I think in terms of what's been modeled and what we have felt, many of us are not equipped to stay in love. And then there's another thing that makes this really, really difficult. Our culture, and you know this, none of this is new information, our culture has a really low threshold of pain relationally, a really low relational threshold for pain, which means it doesn't have to hurt too bad, and we just decide to get out, right? Gone are the days where I said I do, and I do means I do, and I'm going to keep doing whether I like it or not, and whether she or he likes it or not, we're just doing. I do'd, and we do. That's what we do. That day's gone, right? That it just doesn't take a lot of pain. And plus, in our culture, the message you and I get every single day, and maybe you think this is true, and we can talk about that later. The message we get every single day is if you're not happy in your current relationship, it's because you're with the wrong person. You chose poorly. You need to re-choose. You need to reboot. You need to get out. You need to start over because you chose poorly. And if you'll just keep looking, you'll find that soulmate. And if you'll keep moving from relationship to relationship, eventually it's going to happen to you because you're finally going to meet the right person. But if you talk to people who've been married 20 years plus, who are still in love, and ask them about that approach, they will tell you there were times along the way these 20 years that I wondered if I had the right person. But I decided that the person I chose was going to be the right person. And we're so glad we worked through those difficulties, because choosing the right person is part of it. But learning to be and to become the right person is the other part of it. And it's the part of it that we get no help for, I should say, from culture and from the world around us. Now, so if we just stop there, odds are, you may want to finish with somebody and you may want to stay in love forever. And you may want your current relationship to, become more about in love than just surviving life. You may want it to be that way. But I'm telling you, the odds are against you. The odds are against me. It may be possible. It is not probable. Aren't you glad we don't close in prayer there? Send you home encouraged. Now, here's the thing. Look up here. This is so important, okay? This is so important. Into that chaos that all of us can relate to. I mean, we've all been dinged up and hurt and got stories, whether it's your parents or your previous marriage or you're watching one of your kids go through something. Into all of that chaos, Jesus speaks 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, he's with his guys, and he gives us the foundation for enduring relationships. He gives us the foundation for enduring love relationships. I think it's the foundation for enduring romantic love, in love, can't wait to get home in the afternoon, can't wait to hear the garage door open, kind of relationships. And it's so simple. It's so counterintuitive. It's so not a part of the way we normally think. It is a paradigm shift. It's readjusting north on your relational compass. But it's so simple that even when I say it, it's kind of like, ooh, Woo, yeah, heard that before. Now give me something rich, give me something practical. Andy, I've got her here. Now come on, work on her. Come on, she's here, buddy. This is your big chance, okay? She didn't want to come because she's, but come on. I got him here, he told me to bring the CD home. I'm bringing the CD home. So this is it, we're hanging by a thread. I'm telling you, but again, don't take my word for it. Just find the people, if you can find them, who you look at their marriage and you go, that's where I want to be when I'm that age. That's what I want going on in my relationship next time I have one, or in my current relationship. And here's what you're going to find. This is so simple. It's so powerful. It's so rare. It's so accessible. It's so available. If two people will simply accept this basic teaching of Jesus. This is in John chapter 13, verse 34. We're just looking at one verse from Jesus. And one more verse in just a minute. Here's what he says. He's got his guys together and he says, a new command I give you. In other words, guys, you got the 10 commandments and you got 700 other, Old Testament laws to support the 10 commandments. I'm going to give you a new one. And when I tell you what it is, it's not even really that new. And the little Greek word for new can mean other things, and I'm wondering if maybe it means something else. Because the word can mean extraordinary. It can also mean hidden and recently discovered. It can mean remarkable. Maybe he's saying, I'm going to give you a remarkable command. It's so remarkable that you're going to be unimpressed, but if you sit on it for a while, you'll realize this is a remarkable command. And here's his command. Love one another. Oh, man, Andy, you should have studied harder. Is that it? But listen to what Jesus does, and it'll slip right by you if you're not careful. Jesus takes a word that we normally use as a noun, and he makes it a verb. It's an imperative. It's a command. He says, look, guys, here's the deal. I want you to go and love one another. I know love is something you fall into like a pool and out of like a high chair. I mean, I realize love is like a noun, okay? But I'm making it a verb. I want you to love one another, which means Jesus would not have been a very good marriage counselor, probably, or a relationship counselor, or a couple counselor, because you'd have gone to him and said, she does this, and she does that, and she does this, and she does that. And Jesus would look at you and say, well, are you loving her? Well, I used to. No, you don't used to. You used to noun. You don't used to verb. Are you loving her? Well, so here's what I want y'all to do. I'm going to fix your relationship. I want you, and I want y'all to go home, and I want you to love each other. But we don't love each other. Well, you ought to. You're married. But we don't. No. You're confusing noun and verb. You're saying you're not feeling it. I want to help you feel it. You got to do it, and then you feel it. You see, your relationship started off feeling it, And then the feeling went away, and you're trying to get the feeling back, and you're thinking the only way to get the feeling back is to meet somebody new, because let's see, when did I feel the most in love? Oh, when I met that new person. I think I'll go meet a new person to get the feeling back. Jesus says, no, here's how it works. If you want to maintain it, if you want to foster it, if you want to, blow on that flame, then you need to quit treating love like a noun, and you need to treat it like a verb. And I want you to go home, and I want you to love one another. See, here's kind of the bottom line. This is just the beginning. We're 4 weeks going. Okay, this is just the beginning. The foundation for staying in love is to make love. Pause. A verb. But now you'll remember it, right? Listen, in fact, let's just say that together because it's just fun to say in church, okay? Really, the foundation for long-term in-love relationship is making love a verb. You've got to make love a verb. And the goal isn't to recapture a feeling. Listen, in the relationship, the feeling is the caboose of the train. It ain't the engine. It starts off as the engine. I understand that. But then it goes to the back of the train. It becomes the caboose. In fact, I'll tell you something I'm not going to tell anybody else, and I don't want this to leave the room, okay? The more you make love a verb, the more you'll make love. But you didn't hear that from me, okay? Now, Here's what he says. He says, I want you to learn how to actively love one another. Love is something you do. And when two people who at some point have been in love or who are in love, and we're going to talk for 4 weeks, so don't say, hey, tell me what to do. We're going to get there. When they actively love one another, guess what it does? It rekindles and continues to kindle and inflame and enrich and make better the in-love part of the relationship. But you have to love one another. It's a command, love one another. But he doesn't stop there. And maybe this is the new part of the command. Listen to the rest of the verse. New command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. In other words, he says, I don't want you to take your cue from culture. Although there's some things that can be redeemed from culture relationally, it's not all bad. I don't want you to necessarily take your cue from your parents. I mean, they may have survived, but if you look at their relationship and they just, finally dad moved upstairs and they've got 2 kitchens and they're in the same house, but I mean, he'd rather go on vacation with, the dog than take your mom. Or, they're together, but it's not what you want. It's going, maybe you don't need to take your cue from your parents about what it means to love one another. And maybe you shouldn't take your cue from your parents-in-law or your fiance's parents or, this person you're in love with's parents. I mean, I don't know where you take your cues from, but Jesus says, for sure. When you think about what does it mean to love like a verb, I want you to take your cue from me. And if you'll allow me to, I will teach you how to love. Not how to be in love. You've got a pulse. You're good. I want to teach you how to stay in love. But if it's going to happen, love must be a verb, not just a noun. To stay in love, you've got to make love a verb. Now, okay, with you, tracking with you. Later on, years later, the Apostle Paul comes along, takes the same idea and says it in a different way, except he uses a bad word. I mean, this is bad words, a word we don't like. He uses a word that's actually gotten Christians in a lot of trouble, but it's unnecessary because the word is so offensive that we kind of discount everything he says about this. But the Apostle Paul takes the very idea Jesus said, and he just uses a different word than love, and it's a word that sticks a little harder and is a little bit more of a, I don't know about that, but I'm telling you, it's the very same thing, and it's an extraordinarily powerful word that helps illustrate what Jesus meant when he said, love one another. Here's how the Apostle Paul said it. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. Just going to look at this verse. Ephesians 5:21. Here's what he said. Here starts off with the bad word. Submit to one another. And then here's the Jesus part again. Out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. You know what that means? It's the same as love one another, except it just got a barb on it. And here's what it means. Paul said, and then right after this, we're not going to look at it today. Right after this, Paul begins to talk about men and women's relationship and husbands and wives. He goes right into it. He says the bottom line, the foundation, the starting block for people who are going to stay in love is mutual submission. Mutual submission. Mutual submission means I say, you know what, in our relationship, you're the priority. And you say, no, Andy, in our relationship, you're the priority. I go, no. In our relationship, you're the priority. No. Gomer, you're the priority. No, Luann, you're the priority. In other words, the big conflict in the relationship is who's going to be first, who's going to take priority. And, I'm saying it's you and you're saying it's me. That's mutual submission. Let me just tell you, I don't know if you've ever seen that in a marriage. I don't know if you've ever seen that between a man and a woman or between people in love. But I want to tell you something. When you see it, it's powerful. It is rare because it's scary. Because somebody has to go first. Somebody has to say, you know what? You're the priority in this relationship. And even if you don't make me the priority, I'm making you the priority in the relationship. When 2 people get that going on, I'm telling you, love is alive and well in that relationship. It's so rare. Very few of us listening to this message have ever seen it. But when you see it, you go, that is what I want. Paul says, this is what Jesus was talking about. Mutual submission. You first. No, you first. No, you first. No, you. Now, you may never go in the building because you'll be holding the door for the rest of your life, but it's okay. You first. No, you first. No, we're gonna talk about this a lot in the next few weeks. But that's the beginning. That's the foundation. Love, actively, verb one another. Specifically, submit. Submit means you place yourself under the other person, not because by birth order or by financial status or some other caste system you're not as important. That's not it at all, as we're going to see next week. It's a choice you make. It's a choice you make. It's a decision you make, regardless of who I am and what I had and what I brought into the marriage and who I'm related to and whatever else. I am choosing to place myself under you as you choose to place yourself under me. You say, Andy, that doesn't even make sense. I know it doesn't really make sense, but I'm telling you what, when you experience it, when you see it, when you watch one of those, when you get into one of those, that's the foundation for staying in love. Not simply staying married, staying in love.